Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. And hey, I'm going to be completely upfront with you here. If you can't break out of your employee mindset for the next few minutes of this presentation, honestly, you're going to stay financially stuck forever. Now, I know that's a massive claim, right? But stick with me because the data and the expert insights we're unpacking today absolutely back it up.
This quote actually comes directly from a masterclass on audience retention. They analyzed this technique called the identity gap hook. And man, it creates immediate tension, doesn't it? It's basically the idea that your inability to finish a simple explainer is actually a reflection of your character. So, hey, prove me wrong. Stick around, because I've got a mega tip waiting for you at the very end of this explainer that will literally re-engineer how you accumulate wealth.
All right, so here is our roadmap for today. We're hitting the mindset trap, employee versus entrepreneur, the locus of control, shifting your identity, and finally, the ultimate wealth secret. By the end of this roadmap, you're going to understand the exact identity shift required to build true wealth. Let's get into it.
Section 1, the mindset trap, and specifically, the employee problem. Before we reveal the psychological traps that are probably keeping you stuck exactly where you are, I want you to mentally, or literally out loud, answer this question right now. What is holding you back from scaling your income today? Seriously, take a second. Think about it. Getting your brain actively involved right now is absolutely crucial for what we're about to uncover.
So, a lot of us are suffering from something called trade-off energy. According to Caroline Adams' coaching, this is basically a false dichotomy. It's this rigid either-or thinking where you tell yourself, well, I can either be fulfilled in my career or I can make a lot of money, as if you can't have both. This mindset severely limits our worldview. When we accept this, it's like we're starting our whole journey with this watered-down vision of what we actually want. We're essentially settling for less before we've even taken the first step.
And then there's another major trap, the grinding energy trap. People with this energy falsely assume that sheer hard work alone is going to fix all their financial barriers. They think, well, I worked incredibly hard to get here, so upgrading to the next level just means working even harder, right? Wrong. It's a totally exhausting belief system that completely caps your earning potential because, let's face it, there are only so many hours in a day.
Okay, Section 2, employee versus entrepreneur. Let's look at how these two groups actually operate.
Check out this stark contrast outlined by the Rich Dad philosophy. The employee mindset completely fears instability. They demand stability from others, they value tenure and pure effort, and they inherently take from ownership. Now flip that and look at the employer mindset. They don't demand stability from anyone else. They actually create it out of total chaos. They take total ownership of the situation and they reward actual results over sheer effort. It's a completely different lens on how the world works.
Financial services expert Gary Dass offers a really tough pill to swallow right here. He points out that if you're brilliant at your craft, but you are entirely trapped in delivering the service, you haven't actually built a business. You're basically just a technician who bought yourself a job. And honestly, it's usually a job where you're working way more hours for fewer pounds per hour, all while carrying the entire weight of the stress.
Moving on to Section 3, the locus of control and agitating the pain. Let's dive into some real academic data to see how this translates into stress.
To ground all this psychology in reality, we really need to define the locus of control. This is a concept heavily researched in a University of Rhode Island thesis, and it basically defines the degree to which you perceive control over your own life. So, is that control in your own hands, meaning you have an internal locus, or is it in the hands of others, maybe the economy or just plain luck, which would be an external locus? That thesis highlights a fascinating 2012 academic study analyzing how this perceived control directly impacts your economic stress. And you know what they found? It turns out that an external locus of control, basically believing that things just happen to you and that you're entirely at the mercy of your boss or the market, is directly tied to much higher financial strain and anxiety.
And here is exactly why this matters so much. The typical employee mindset relies heavily on an external locus for their salary, for their raises, and for their overall stability. Because their financial fate is literally in someone else's hands, it generates a massive amount of underlying economic stress. On the flip side, the entrepreneur with an internal locus sees events as self-determined. And paradoxically, that measurably lowers their economic stress, even amidst all the wild chaos of running a business.
This whole idea perfectly ties into a concept from I Am Wealth Partners called loss aversion. It's human nature. We fear losing what we already have far more than we value potential future gains. But here's the kicker. If you have an external locus of control, loss aversion completely traps you in these conservative, fearful financial behaviors. You stay in the safe job, you totally avoid investing, and you remain permanently stuck in that employee trap.
All right, Section 4, shifting your identity. We've agitated the problem enough. Now it's time for the solution. Gary Das provides an absolutely brilliant roadmap for this transition. Step 1, you've got to change your daily question. Stop waking up and asking, what do I need to do today? And start asking, what do I need to build today that will eventually make this business run without me? You literally have to delegate those 10-pound-an-hour administrative tasks so you can finally focus on the 100-pound-an-hour growth tasks. It's time to stop being the technician and actually step up into leadership.
As Daz perfectly summarizes the transition, the identity shift is what creates the space for the opportunity. Look, business is not an emotional sport. It is a highly logical one. Building your mindset muscle, as he calls it, isn't optional. It's mandatory. You have to actively rewire how you view risk, how you view delegation, and most importantly, how you view your own role in the system.
Caroline Adams introduces a really great strategy for this called yes-anding. Remember that trade-off energy we talked about earlier? Well, you beat it by putting yourself firmly back in the driver's seat. You have to refuse to accept those watered-down career choices. If you want 30 different things out of your career and your life, stop asking what you have to give up. Start asking, okay, how can I get everything I want? Ask yourself, who is already doing this, and how can I model them?
And that brings us to Section 5, the ultimate wealth secret. This is the mega tip we promised you right at the start.
The foundational shift required for absolutely any of this to work is moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, which is detailed beautifully by I Am Wealth Partners. See, a scarcity mindset truly believes that resources are finite. It's entirely driven by fear and hoarding. But an abundance mindset, that focuses on endless opportunities. It views money merely as a tool, not a life raft. Building real wealth is literally impossible if your internal operating system is rooted in scarcity and fear.
So here's your practical step-by-step path to bypass those emotional biases and basically reprogram your brain. Step 1, cultivate real financial self-awareness. Track your habits and understand the specific emotions driving your spending. Step 2, consciously adopt that abundance mindset. Train yourself to see money as a tool, not a limit. Step 3, set incredibly clear, achievable goals to build up your momentum. And Step 4, automate your financial habits. By putting your savings and investments on autopilot, you defeat that sneaky present bias and literally force yourself to act logically rather than emotionally.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The data, the psychology, and all the experts point to one undeniable reality. Your mindset absolutely determines your financial success. Each and every one of us has to decide which path we're going to follow. So, are you going to stay comfortable in the underlying stress of the employee mindset? Or are you going to take total ownership and build true wealth? Seriously, which mindset will you choose today? Think about it and start building.